Private bodyguards, alarms, sensors, these are going to be given to MPs as part of a £31 million security drive designed to protect our politicians in the wake of the threat from extremists. We're paying for it, by the way, all of us, yet again. It comes after Sir Lindsay Hoyle raised the issue during last week's Gaza debate.
I had serious meetings yesterday with the police on the issues and threats to politicians, threats heading to an election. And I do not want anything to happen again.
Oh, well, here she comes with absolutely no sense of irony whatsoever. Veteran Labour MP Harriet Harman waved the white flag with this suggestion on how to keep MPs out of harm's way.
Could go back to hybrid again, which is that sometimes MPs could speak in the chamber, sometimes they could speak from their constituency. They could sometimes vote through the division lobbies, or they could sometimes vote online.
Pathetic. Anyway, MPs like Jonathan Gullis and Mike Freer have told me personally about the extreme threat, loads of others as well, by the way, the extreme threats they face day to day. Now, a little earlier, I was joined by their colleague, the Jewish MP Andrew Percy, and I started by asking him about Harman's proposals.
I think that's the answer to this problem, and in fact, actually, it would be admitting defeat in the face of these threats from these extremists if we were too scared or unable to come to our place of work. So I think that's an unhelpful and also it's an option that won't work anyway. You need to be physically here in the chamber, meeting, speaking to people. That's how this job works, as many jobs do, and we should be in the building, and we should be safe in doing that. The job is to get us here safely and keep us safe here, not have us hidden away in our homes.
I suppose as Tobias Elwood found out as well, they might just turn up at your house anyway.
Well, I'm not sure I think, probably you're safer working here in this building in Westminster than working in home or in your own constituency offices. So I don't think it's a solution at all. And I don't think it's one we should go down, because it would be admitting defeat. These people would have won.
As a member of the public, I suppose, as I am, some people are thinking, well, if we've got ourselves in a situation where yet again we're doing everything we can to not address the root cause of this, so, do we end up with debates being changed or votes being changed in Parliament with millions of pounds of taxpayers' money being spent policing these protests, and MPs then working from an office in their spare room and zooming into debates and discussions? It just begs the question, how far are we going to go before we actually tackle the real problem here?
I mean, this is the issue. This is why I got so irritated in the chamber last week, because everyone keeps saying, oh, this is all unacceptable. But at the end of the day, it's carrying on. And unless we deal with that root cause, as you say, it's just going to continue. And, the fact is we have a small minority of extremists, and those extremists come in all shapes and sizes, right? There are far-right extremists, there are left-wing extremists, and there are Islamist extremists. And we're letting too many of those groups dictate the terms to us and dictate the terms to our democracy. And so we can call it out all we want, but what are we actually going to do about it? And yes, it's great that MPs are going to have extra security, and our staff and our families are, to help protect us. But we've got to deal with the underlying problem, right, which is that these people are dictating the terms of the debate on a whole range of issues at the moment, and it's got to stop.
Do you think that some left-wing politicians like Harriet Harman are now facing the consequences of their own ideology?
Well, I think, look, there are people who, I don't know whether Harriet I would count as in that group, but there are certainly, very hard left MPs who have indulged some of these people, some of this ideology. Some of them have been out talking and speaking at some of these rallies, for heaven's sake, right? They've been winding up, they've been using the language. When one particular MP attacked me on social media for daring to suggest in the chamber that people who talk about October the 7th and the response to it should reference perhaps the attacks as well. That's when some of the worst anti-Semitic and personally insulting and offensive emails came my way. So that was hate directed at me, driven by a colleague of mine, a member of Parliament. So some of them are responsible for this, yes.
OK, now, this £31 million package that James Cleverly is talking about, do you know what that is going to entail? Are you going to have to walk around with a bodyguard?
Well, I hope not. I don't know exactly what the package will be. Lots of us have had enhanced security measures because of threats and behaviour, and to our staff in particular, of course, who are on the front line of this. We've had all our offices, our homes, gone through the process. But this is additional money which is being made available. I'm sad that it has to be made available because we shouldn't be operating. You know, this is Britain. This is a democracy. This shouldn't be necessary. So I don't exactly know what it will be spent on, but obviously I hope it makes my staff and our families safer.
And can I just ask you as well to clarify, you know, there's been some people online, a lot of people online say, oh, our MP's really facing threats. Oh, it's just direct democracy, isn't it? Could you just outline some of the threats that maybe you and your staff have faced? And look, without naming names, you don't have to as well. What some of your colleagues have been saying they've been dealing with as well, please.
Yeah, I mean, look, people get insulted. I used to be a school teacher, and sometimes people would say rude things about me as a teacher, or, you know, and these things happen in all workplaces, but there is nothing like the scale of what we face in this job. Because we are publicly known, people know who you are, people often know where you live, and they believe that politicians are at the bottom of the food chain and are fair game for this. So we get, you know, I've had death threats, I've got restraining orders against people, my staff have had threats. You know, in the last few months, of course, I've been, you know, told everything from my family members should die to, you know, I should be flogged in the streets, burn in hell, you know, Zionist, all the rest of it, right? And you know, and there are colleagues who've had it much worse than that. As we know, there are, you know, colleagues who have had very significant death threats, you know, threats to their families, threats on their you know, actual attacks on their offices. So this stuff is on a scale most people do not have to deal with. And I'm not, you know, saying that out of, you know, demanding sympathy. I just want to be like other people and go to work knowing that, you know, I'm not going to be threatened or attacked at work. Now, look, police officers, people on the NHS front line get threats and abuse as well. And we think that that's completely unacceptable. So it should be completely acceptable for MPs as well.
Tory MP Andrew Percy there. Look.